Hello and welcome to Watching the Tudors, a proud member of the Agora Podcast Network. I'm Heather.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this is the podcast where we watch the Tudors after almost 10 years and go into the depth of the history and the background of the show, the story behind the drama, and what's true and what's not. So you can learn more about us at watchingthetudors.com. This is Season 2, Episode 1, Everything is Beautiful. And a quick reminder that if you like this show and you want to see more of it, please leave us a rating on iTunes. It's the number one way you can help a show succeed, and it helps lots of other people find the program. A couple of business notes for this episode. We are starting something new with Season 2, which is trying to do shorter episodes.
You don't have to listen to us talk as much.
And we're curious what you think about that. Does it work? Does it not work? So we're going to try and stick in the half-hour, 40-minute framework here and not go too far over that. And then also we're going to have a commercial in the middle. And you might have actually heard a commercial already before you heard us talking just now.
So be ready for that.
Yeah, and we'll give you warning. So there's that. We also will do our regular spoiler alert, which is that we're going to tell you what happens.
Yeah, we talk about what happens in the episode, and we also talk about things that happen later kind of in the story. I mean, not too much, but things like Henry, kills a few of his wives, just in case you didn't know that. There you go.
Yep.
So you probably want to watch the episode first if you don't want things to be given away.
Absolutely. Okay, and so a really quick recap, and then we'll go right into the discussion. So this is all about how Anne is obviously going to become queen, now that it's obviously a given that she will, and it's really messy getting her there. And This is the start of all of that messiness.
Henry is doing a lot to get his divorce.
He is.
It's ridiculous. Anyways.
All right, so start asking me your questions.
Okay, so we're in the year 1532. So is the story, not the story, but just they make it seem like Anne is doing all of this like for purposes of influence. And
right.
I wondered if, in your opinion, like that was at all accurate. I mean, do you think she actually loved him a little, or if this is just all kind of a giant ruse or whatever?
Yeah, there's a lot of theories on that. And I actually asked, plug for my other podcast on the Renaissance English History podcast, I interviewed Alison Weir recently on her new book all about Anne Boleyn. And I asked her that question. I said, there's the theory that it maybe started off innocently enough, and then she just got caught up in events that spun out of her control and all of that. And I said, what do you think? What's your theory? And she kind of said that she thinks that as early as 1527, they were talking about marriage, and they were talking about, being in love and everything like that. So I think that she likely saw an opportunity for advancement, and she also, what's she going to do? The King of England wants to be with her. And I think that
she would need to fight him off. So
she didn't really have a lot of choice, and she saw what happened to her sister. So she didn't want to exactly go down that route.
Yeah.
And so she probably thought she could find a way. The family probably thought they could find a way to profit out of it. But then she definitely enjoyed being with him. They had a passionate relationship. It was filled with a lot of lust and love and passion and all of it. And so, I think that she truly had very, very deep feelings for him at some point, and, that developed over time. And
so not just totally for influence purposes.
I don't think so.
She's just not totally cold and calculating.
I don't think she's very cold and calculating at all.
How about, did the English people ever forgive Henry for the divorce?
Yes.
Okay.
By the time he died, he was king for almost 40 years. So entire lifetimes of people. His son ascended as a minor, and there was no question about that. There was never a power struggle.
No big revolt or anything.
No. There was some rebellions here and there, but people forgave their king.
So how much do you think Wolsey's fall was the fault, like the direct fault of Anne and her people's effort? I mean, do you think he probably would have, fallen anyways because he couldn't have gotten the divorce, or?
Yeah, it just seemed like Henry asked him to do something that he just couldn't do, and he took the fall. And if Henry had never wanted the divorce, and he was just happy being married to Catherine, and Wolsey was a great statesman, and he probably would have continued being a great statesman. But Henry asked him to do something that nobody could have done.
He kind of got himself in over his head by, being able to have Henry think he could do anything, and then when he couldn't do something, that made him vulnerable, and they just kind of took the extra step of telling him about all the money and stuff.
So in that sense, it was down to Anne because it all stemmed from that. But
but it wasn't her doing per se.
It would have been, and nobody could have done what he wanted him to do.
Okay, so now that was kind of like the recap part.
Okay. So
now to the main story now, the House of Commons letter about the clergy and how bad they were. That's a real thing?
Yeah. So this was called the Supplication Against the Ordinaries, and this was a petition passed by the House of Commons in 1532, and it was a result of grievances against the Church of England, prelates and clergy, and ordinaries in this act as clerics. So basically it was Parliament who said, look, the clergy's really, really corrupt. They mentioned things like excessive fees collected by church courts, use of excommunication for minor causes, the independent legislative power of the convocation. Basically, they just said there was just too much power that the clergy had. They weren't happy with it. There was too much corruption, and this was the supplication that they sent, which of course is all political, so that Henry can have an excuse to fight them. But yeah.
Okay.
But it was a real thing.
So can you recap a little how Henry and Thomas More both felt about church in England in general, or
Sure.
the church, I guess?
Yeah, it's interesting because Henry never really became a Protestant. He's responsible for the Church of England as we know it now. But he was never actually a Protestant. Even until the year he died, he was killing heretics who were Protestants, and he never liked Protestants.
And that's what you were saying too before. I remember this, just how sort of much of a church kind of man he was. I mean, he was raised to be, before his brother died, he was being raised to be a church person.
Yeah, although I have heard there's some arguments about that. Mm-hmm. Something I was reading recently that's I shouldn't say that as if it's fact.
Okay.
So, but yes, he was.
The plot deepens. So as we previously believed,
new
he was really a church guy. So
no, he was a church guy. I just don't know that he was actually raised to go into the church.
I see. Okay.
But he was always a church guy. He would remain, on the surface very devout, believing himself to be very devout until he died, and very devout as a Catholic.
So deep down, it might have kind of hurt him that he had to go against the church to get what he wanted, or almost that the church wouldn't go with him, so they had to become somewhat enemies.
And the thing is, I don't know that he ever thought it was going to go as far as it did. And kings and popes, especially in England, had been having fights for millennia. This is not a new thing. Way back hundreds of years before that, with the murder of Thomas of Becket, who was an archbishop, that the king at the time, who was another Henry, said he wished somebody could rid him of this horrible archbishop, and some people went off and murdered him, and he had to do this serious penance, and it was all out of a relationship with the Pope. And so this was not a new thing for kings to be really, and especially in England, because it was so far away. You could easily make the argument of why should somebody in Rome control us? And so but at the same time, he was very devout, and I don't think that he ever thought it was going to go that far. Now, it's interesting because More would remain loyal to the Pope forever, but he wanted to reform a lot. He was a humanist. He wanted to reform the abuses in the church where he saw them. He just wanted to do it within the structures that were already there, and to not do something as drastic.
To totally break from it. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you actually sat the two of them down, they would probably agree on more than they disagreed on. But it was that one final thing that Henry was like, well, I'm willing to break away.
Yeah, because he really needs that divorce.
Yeah.
So then there's the trial,
yes.
of the clergy or whatever, however you want to term
the
that.
Reformation Parliament and all of that, yeah.
So that was a real thing and everything.
Yeah, and that comes from that supplication as well. So all of this whole period, there's this period called the Reformation Parliament, and it was all of these different parliaments that were called this time up until the 1534 Act of Supremacy. So there was a lot of work that was going on during this time in Parliament, trying to set up who would be in charge and what would happen to the clergy and blah, blah, blah.
And this is pretty much, this is all for his divorce.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point people who are Protestants are coming in and being supportive of it and saying, yeah, let's do it because they think it's going to head.
There was a groundswell for other reasons, but
Yeah.
I mean, like the reason all this started is...
Yeah.
Like
And it might have been just a big game of bluff, you know, getting it going.
But I guess if Henry didn't want a divorce, there probably never would have been a letter from the House of Commons about how corrupt things were. I was pretty shocked that Bishop Fisher still had a head.
He won't for much longer.
Okay. I figured. I mean, it's like this is a second time he's like calling out the king.
You know,
like,
he's
in
so
front
old.
Of everyone.
He was like the confession to Henry, confessioner, the person who took confession to Henry's grandmother. He's just like, I'm so old, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory.
I know I'm going to heaven soon, so I'm going to have to answer for things like tomorrow.
Exactly.
So might as well speak.
Yeah. So he won't have his head for that much longer.
Okay. Now we go to the Pope.
Let's go to the Pope.
And he seems quite annoyed having to deal with all this stuff, all this crap. And he's really getting pulled from both sides. There's like the letter from Henry saying, I'm going to split. It's going to be a bad scene. You better give me what I want. Like, quit this stuff. And then there's the emperor, the Holy Roman Emperor, saying, you better not rule against my aunt. Is that?
Yeah, his aunt.
My aunt, because Catherine, because that would be a bad scene.
Yeah.
He's really kind of stuck.
You know, I think it's interesting
He probably doesn't even want to have to deal with it in the first place.
No, he doesn't. But I think this is an interesting testament to like the role of popes. Like we tend to think, especially at this time, when we think about this time period, we think about people who are very religious, right? And like church attendance was mandatory. And it was like this people talking in Latin and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And here's the man who has ultimate control over their souls. You know, he could excommunicate either one of them. And he does excommunicate one of them. And he's the person who has absolute power over their souls and like their relationship with God. And they're both telling him, giving him the what for. So I think it really kind of shows a little bit of like how political the papacy has always been and how much people have kind of always been willing to stand up to it and kind of boss the popes around. And I just think it's really interesting that you would do that. Like, this is the person who controls you.
Who's sending you to hell, basically.
Exactly.
Or not.
And so I also think it kind of flies in the face of this whole idea that people were really religious back then and really revered all of it.
Like they talk about it, but if you were really that religious, would you be going at the Pope this
Exactly.
hard? Yeah. And I really, at this point, just commentary, I really don't like Henry. Like, I haven't liked him for a while, but I mean, all of this stuff, all of this, for a girl he ends up killing. Like,
right. I mean,
come on,
yes,
man.
Yes, there is that. And, you know, I don't know, it's interesting that you say that, but you've already started this now because there has been a school of thought that, and in recent years, that Henry only turned into the monster that he did after 1536 when he had a jousting accident and he was like knocked out cold for a while. And only one person said he was knocked out cold. The other people just said he was kind of dizzy. So anyway, there's this train of thought, this theory that he was knocked out and it affected him. And it was all the jousting accident because then later on that year was when he killed Anne Boleyn. And that's like when he starts really killing people. But I think it's interesting that you pointed out here that he's already becoming an asshole because most historians don't actually believe in that 1536 idea because there's so much evidence of him being a monster,
being crazy
even before this. Yeah,
like the lengths he's going to. I mean, at some point, just like give up and have her be your mistress. Like what? Like what?
Well,
come
and
on.
okay,
I'm just
to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate, his father won the Wars of the Roses through the Battle of Bosworth Field, 1485. When Henry took power, when Henry ascended, it was the first peaceful transfer of power in England in, I think it was like 60 years, 50 or 60 years. And
so he just needed to stir up some crap to like make it interesting?
No. He needs a male heir. England had never had. And I mean, the great irony of this, of course, is that his daughter, through Anne Boleyn, would be England's golden age and the greatest monarch of the time, which is Queen Elizabeth. So that is an irony
Yes.
about it. But, you know, from what if you want to really play devil's advocate for him, he really did believe that he needed a male heir. And he didn't want England to go back to the civil wars.
I'm not buying it.
You're not buying it.
I'm not buying it. I mean, I get that, and I still think he's a jerk.
England had never had a female queen. There was somebody in the 12th century, Matilda, who was a granddaughter or something of William the Conqueror, and she tried to press her claim, and she couldn't make it.
It didn't go so well.
Well, you know what? She got sidetracked. She had to stop and give birth.
Yeah.
She got caught in a castle on the way to invade because she had to give birth, and then Stephen, the other guy, makes it, and because they were all coming from France because they were all Norman at the time.
It's always a guy named Stephen, huh?
Right. No, it's not a Thomas, at least.
All right.
Okay.
So next, who is Cranmer? Who is this Cranmer guy?
Thomas Cranmer will be another Thomas. He will be the Archbishop of Canterbury, and I believe he was a German, and he was a Protestant. He's the one who basically came up with the whole idea behind Henry's divorce.
Oh, he was the guy who wrote the book that like Henry really liked. Like
yes.
the whole, he's like, oh, Anne
yes.
gave him this book of this Cranmer guy who had all these, ideas against the papacy
yes.
or whatever. All right. Next, Mr. Roos, the cook. Roos?
Roos, yes.
Is that a real guy? Like there was a...
Yes, there was.
Chef Roos?
Yes. I'm just looking whether he actually was German. I know he was in Germany. No, he was actually born in Nottingham. I apologize. He was in Germany a lot, but...
Okay.
And so
German.
he was coming back from Germany at the time, but yeah, he was not German. Okay, so Roos. Yes. So this is actually a true event that happened. And he was the cook in the household of Bishop Fisher. And the story was that he poisoned porridge, and people who ate the porridge got sick. The only people who died actually were two people who, God bless them, they hadn't been guests there, but they came to get alms afterwards, and they gave him some food, and they died.
And they were really hungry, so they ate a lot and died.
Yes.
Yeah, it sucks for them.
Yes. So Roos said that he put the stuff in the food as a joke, that he hadn't meant to harm anybody, and that was like what his story was, that he just did it as a joke, and he was convicted of treason.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we go back to this Cranmer guy, and he's talking with the king, and I would be really worried if the king liked me that much, because it seems like anyone who's that close to the king is like in trouble.
Yes.
And I guess I just wondered, does he end up getting killed as well?
Not by Henry.
So he does end up getting killed.
He ends up getting killed by Mary Tudor, Queen Mary.
His daughter.
Yes, because she's a Catholic. And when she comes to the throne, she has some mad beef with him.
And is that Bloody Mary?
Yes.
And you have an issue with her being called... I
have such a soft spot for Mary Tudor, but yes, that's Bloody Mary. Yes.
And so when we drink those drinks with tomato juice, well, we don't drink Bloody Marys.
And she's only remembered as Bloody Mary because of Fox's Book of Martyrs, and I don't like it.
Sound like Fox News? Or?
It has about the same level of journalistic integrity.
Did Wyatt was the poet, yes?
Yes.
Did he work for Cromwell?
Yeah, Thomas Cromwell had people working for him all over the place. Thomas Cromwell was like the whole kind of master of this network.
He was just kind of playing all sorts of weird pieces all over.
Yes, he was the puppet master.
He seems like conniving a bit, that Cromwell.
Well, he was like Wolsey. I mean, he worked for Wolsey. He came up just like Wolsey came from a common family.
You gotta play things right if you're just coming up from
he was
nothing.
He was a common person born in South London, and we'll talk about him later as he gets more popular. But
okay,
yeah,
Mark Smeaton, is that
he
his
dies.
Name? Okay, I was just gonna say he needs to quit making eyes at Anne, because that is a dangerous.
You don't have to worry about that. He's going to be dead soon.
He is not thinking very well. And then the poison. So we already mentioned, I have this as the poison episode reel, and that's like a reel. You said that.
So interestingly, not the only, but a main record we have of it is a letter that Eustace Chapuis, the imperial ambassador, said that Henry became personally involved in the case and wanted Roos dealt with in this manner, because he wanted to avert suspicion from falling, if not on himself, for he is too noble-minded to have resource to such means, at least on the lady and her father. He called Anne the lady all the time. He never actually referred to her as Anne Boleyn. He called her the lady.
I don't know what all that means.
So basically he says that Henry stepped in and said he was going to go ahead and kill Roos and have him be tried and everything. because he wanted to avoid suspicion falling on him and on Anne.
Okay, so he didn't want to look like any part of it.
Yeah,
he's
so it's
gonna
kind of
boil
like what in
dude
the
alive.
season Thomas More had said is, you don't want it to look like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
involved.
yeah.
So that's, Chapuis says that's why as well.
Okay.
That's why I did that.
And now we're going to take a little pause for a little commercial break.
There's going to be a commercial break. And there we go.
So there seems to be like just a very interesting power struggle between like Anne and her people, with her like sort of being the head of it, and More, who's like kind of fighting for the Catholic, side of things. And then Cromwell, who's sort of the Protestant like spearhead of his movement. And then Henry, who's like out for his divorce, and he's sort of Catholic too, but sort of anti-Catholic because he wants his divorce. It just seems all very like interesting to me.
Yeah, it was, sometimes you see that in moments of history where people who wouldn't really be friends suddenly all get together.
Yeah, like they're
because
all
they have
sort
like
of
a common enemy.
working together, but like they're all doing it for different purposes and wanting it to
Like,
go different ways.
No, I think it's interesting when you have people who have a reason to all get
Like
together.
different goals, but all are working together to achieve sort
Something.
of different goals.
And then what's
together
interesting
or
is
something.
like once they achieve that, then it becomes a problem of like,
then
then,
it's like,
what are you going to do?
Okay, I got what I wanted. Now I'm going to kill all you.
Yeah.
How am I going to get rid of you?
It's kind of like, aren't there like games like role-playing games and like stuff like that where you have to like I feel like there's like, I've played games like that where it's like you're band together for part of it and then like it all, I don't know. I feel like I remember doing stuff in school that, yeah. So it's kind of like Russia being on our side in World War II. It's like, you would not think we would be allies.
You wouldn't guess that us,
Yep.
the U.S. and Russia
were together.
Working together.
Yep.
All right. Catherine fixing his shirts. Darning his shirts. Is that what it's
Yes.
called? Is that like a real thing?
Yeah,
or do we know
she
about
did.
that?
She did,
That's
and
really
Anne was
sweet.
really upset about it.
She really, like, I feel like the reason she's so upset about all of this is because, like, in my mind, and like knowing nothing about anything other than this television show, is like she knows how like wrong she is, like how messed up she is to like, and not like it's all her. Like I get Henry has fallen for her, I get that, but it's like to me she's
Wait, who's
like
her? Anne?
Anne.
Okay.
I feel like Anne feels horrible, like deep down, because she's coming in and like ruining this like marriage that like of this woman who like really truly like really deep down like loves this man and is married to this man and they've had children, and like she fixes his shirt and she asks about his health, and like here's Anne who like seems to like give a damn about anything except being queen because that's what she deserves. And like I get there's the Henry likes her aspect. It's not like she enchanted him, which is we'll sort of talk about later.
Yeah.
But
Check back in 4
I
years.
just
about
feel
that.
like the reason she really feels like so upset about it is because she knows how wrong she is. That's how I feel.
Fair
That's
enough.
my opinion.
I disagree with you.
That's fine.
I don't think that Anne necessarily sees this. I mean, royal marriages at the time were not in the same way that we see marriage. And
So why is she so mad that she's fixing her shirt?
because Henry's supposed to be trying to put her aside. Like Henry's supposed to be like saying, "I'm with you now." So like,
So let Anne fix her shirts. Oh wait, she doesn't care that much. She just wants to hang around and like have him take her hunting and like tell him how to destroy the church.
You
and
are going to
tell
get some
him
really
how to
nasty
like kill
comments
some
about
people.
yourself
Like,
right now.
let's kill Wolsey. Let's
Okay.
kill some people. Let's not fix some shirts. Like,
Okay.
it's really sweet and caring. I'm not
It
saying
is.
it's a woman's job, but it's really sweet.
No, it is. It totally is really, and it's rare. And I do think that Catherine did love him forever. Like she did.
I don't like this Anne chick either.
This which chick?
Anne.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I like Catherine. Seems like a really nice lady who really cares. Jeez Louise.
You might get some really nasty emails about that. So I would like to let people know that was not me. on the Facebook page. I get the notifications too, so please don't clutter up my notifications with yelling at me about this.
All right.
Yell at him.
I don't even know what I'm doing wrong.
He has
here.
a public profile. You can just yell at him.
I'm a typical man, apparently. I don't even know what's going on, but bring the heat. I can take it.
Anne is a feminist icon.
All right. Speaking of bringing the heat.
Yes.
Roose was really boiled alive.
Yes.
That is hardcore.
Well, okay, it is. And
I think I don't know what I think I'd rather be burned at the stake than boiled alive. Like that seems
which
harsh.
would go fast. I think boiling alive would go faster.
I
mean, it can't last
know.
that long.
I don't know. I think it's a bad choice. I think I'd rather get burned at the stake.
That lasts so long, though. Okay.
I don't know.
Because boiling alive, you're gonna drown right away too. I know it's none of it's pleasant. So Henry VIII's paternal grandfather is Edward IV, who was the Yorkist king. Edward IV had a brother, the Duke of Clarence, who was executed by being drowned in a vat of Malmsey wine.
What's Malmsey?
It's just a kind of wine.
Oh, so he was just drowned.
He was drowned in a vat of wine. That was his official execution. That's how he was drowned.
And actually, if you were put into some boiling stuff, you wouldn't die from boiling. I read about this because a guy fell in a geyser at Yosemite.
Oh yeah, you were telling me that.
Yeah, he died before that of shock or something.
All right, we'll move on.
Boleyn.
Yes.
Dad Boleyn, whatever his name is.
Thomas.
Of course, Thomas. He's like a bad dude. Like he's like a cold mofo. Like
he doesn't lose his head either.
And he's like, here, poison this dude. Like here's some coins. Oh, I'm gonna boil you alive for doing that. I'm not saying he had a choice, but still.
Also we don't know that he did it. I mean, let's just be completely fair about that.
Okay, so this wasn't like documented.
No.
Okay, yeah. Okay, because of course it wasn't documented. He would have been boiled alive too. So.
Yes.
Bad game to be a part of.
He certainly had something to gain from it, but
Speaking of people dying.
Yes.
Violin dude. What's his name?
Mark Smeaton.
He's going to die, huh?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, I smelled that one coming. Did Henry really keep asking Catherine still, like, for an annulment? Like, he ain't letting it go.
Yeah.
Like, as if she's going to change her mind. And he sent her away, yes?
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was the thing.
He did. Yeah.
Okay, so that was historically accurate. And where did she go? Like,
she was sent to a lot of different. He tried to make her more and more and more uncomfortable and more uncomfortable.
So he just kept sending her places.
Yeah, and she
like,
eventually.
Oh, you're doing good there. I'm going to send you somewhere else and send you Siberia.
Yeah.
All right.
She's buried in Peterborough Cathedral. She was off in the wilds of Norfolk, and it was very uncomfortable for her. The weather was terrible. She was at first she still kept some level of queenship, and we'll see it, I think, as the season progresses, that she still had some servants and she still had a house. She had to give back the jewels and stuff, but she still had a household and everything like that. By the end of it,
she was like cleaning up after horses and
not quite that bad, but yeah, and she was in very uncomfortable places, and he just kind of kept moving her to make her uncomfortable.
So now one thing I'm confused with, like, more is, talking to his wife or whoever, like this lady that he's sleeping in the bed with, that he has children with, like, all these religious dudes, like guys, like seem to have like wives. Yes. And I thought religious guys didn't have wives.
Okay, so Thomas More actually wasn't a religious guy. He was like a writer. He was like an Erasmus kind of. He was a humanist.
Oh, okay. Like so he was religious. He had like religious convictions, but he wasn't some kind of priest or something.
Right, exactly.
And then Wolsey, what was up with his thing?
He didn't have it was like a common law wife.
Okay, so just like what we would call a partner.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so
was that a normal thing? I mean, I guess like I thought it was like they're all about celibacy and that not so much.
Not once you got to that high of a level. You could get away. I mean, they're all about celibacy for the underling monks who come in.
Why be celibate if you don't have to be?
Exactly.
If you can get away with it. Like,
I mean, that's one of the things that they talked about, the abuses of that, there was all this talk of celibacy, and yet everybody, I mean, you look at the popes, like the Medici Pope, gosh, there's a whole series about that.
Did they have like harems and stuff or something?
No, like the one guy, the Borgias. That's what it was. It was the Borgias. You've seen the series on them.
I haven't, no.
The family. I never watched the series, but the family of the Borgias. That one of them was a pope, Caesar. I think, and one of them married his daughter. He married his daughter himself, or was like having an affair with his daughter while he was Pope. I don't know all of the facts about this, but yes, it was.
So not so much when you get to that like level,
right?
Okay, and then switching back to Catherine, did she give back all her jewels? Like she had to?
Yeah, she did.
I guess she didn't have a choice.
Even some of the things that she brought with her from Spain, she had to give.
That's harsh.
Which isn't fair.
And Moore really liked Catherine, didn't he?
Everybody really liked Catherine, but
Except
yes.
Henry and Anne.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about Anne as a feminist person in the context of pre-modern feminism.
Whatever.
But
everyone liked Catherine for the most part.
Everyone liked Catherine for the most part. She was hard
lady.
to not like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Daughter of a queen and king.
Yes.
It's nice that he didn't kill Catherine.
Yeah, I think he might have liked to. And Anne wanted him to.
But he didn't.
No, but he didn't, yeah.
He killed everyone else in the entire world, pretty much, that talked to him.
Yep.
So good for him. And then, yeah, speaking of, like, going after people, like, you know, don't kill, what's the saying? Don't kill the messenger? Like, whoa. Like, you know, the guy comes in and says, oh, Catherine wants to know about your health. And he's like, beat you down. Like, that's kind of intense. Okay, and then the final little scene. Anne is thought to be a witch by people. Like, is this was this a thing? Like, did people think this, or was this just like a convenient story that they kind of went for, like as a plan to knock her down? Or
so there's a couple themes. The first is there's no proof of any kind of assassination attempt against her. So we'll take that whole part of it.
That part where they were saying, well, we're going to try to assassinate her, and that Chapuis guy. Chapuis.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that wasn't.
So that's not a thing.
I mean, he might have met with a guy like that, but I don't know that there's nothing
not
like that.
a tape of it.
Right. And so then the other thing about witchcraft is what Anne would be brought down. One of the things that was accused, they said that she must have enchanted Henry, and that was what they said to her. Now, the thing is, with witchcraft, and since we're talking about feminism, witchcraft would be the thing that you would accuse a noble woman of, because there wasn't that much else. So men were, if you wanted to get rid of a man, you would find something treasonous, like we saw early in the season, in season 1 with the Duke of Buckingham, and there were plots and stuff. So with men, if you want to get rid of somebody, you could easily do treason.
Prove treason.
Yes. With women, you couldn't do that. The thing you could do with women is witchcraft. So it was.
Say they're a witch.
Yeah.
How do you know she's a witch?
Yeah. No. And
if
how do you?
She sinks.
Right.
She's not a witch.
Exactly. If she floats, she's a witch. If she's drowned, she's not. Women who tried to wield any kind of power were always at risk that they were going to be accused of witchcraft. Because if they tried to get in and do anything powerful, if it backfired on them then, the way people would get back at them would say she was a witch. And so it was...
That's not cool.
No, it was a very dangerous... It was one of the... And there's stories of it, of English kings, actually. I think it was Henry V accused his old stepmother, once his father died, had accused his stepmother of being a witch so that he could take her money, her dower, because he wanted to use it to make war in France.
Good times.
And he didn't kill her, but he had her imprisoned for like 15 years or something like that. And so this is a very common. Also, Margaret of Anjou, the Wars of the Roses, the wife of Henry VI. Everybody called her a witch as well, and she was a powerful woman who was trying to wield power for the House of Lancaster, and they called her a witch. And this is like what women, this was the risk for a powerful woman. And so that's why I want to talk about that, because this was a theme in this time period, of if you wanted to get rid of somebody, a very convenient thing for women would be witchcraft.
Just in defense of Anne, I don't think she's a witch.
But that is what she would ultimately be accused of and would be killed for.
Harsh.
Yeah. She's not a witch. She's my wife.
All right.
Yes.
Those are all my questions.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for...
So I think that's interesting, just in talking about the themes, the witchcraft thing is a very... And it also, not even for noble women, that was very dangerous, but also if you were a poor woman and you didn't have family looking out for you. You know, if you lived in a village, your kids had died, or your husband had died,
and
or
people wanted your land,
or
it was like...
Not only that, but if you even did anything, my heart, because we love animals, right? My heart breaks for these older women that maybe they didn't have family around them, and their husband had died, and they were left. If you had animals, for example,
Yeah, if you had anything that
they would be
people
your
wanted.
no, not that people wanted it. It was suspicious. They were your familiar, so that was a sign that you were a witch. If you had,
Oh, so it wasn't like people.
yeah,
So people just call you a witch just for the hell of it.
yeah, if you had a lot of cats because you liked cats, like we like cats, that was seen as suspicious. They were your familiars. If you had weird moles, that meant that you were bitten by the devil there.
If that
in
makes
your-
people witches, we are like
We're
some serious witchcraft.
No, a couple of years ago, there was a quiz that was on like BBC.
We got a lot of cats, is what I'm referring to.
BBC History magazine or something. They had this quiz that said, "Would you have been accused of witchcraft in the Middle Ages?"
Yeah.
Like totally, I would have been accused of witchcraft, and you would too, I'm sure. But
We're
yeah,
not actually into witchcraft, so
no,
don't worry.
I'm Episcopalian.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic of how women were at risk, and for both powerful women and for older women that didn't have somebody protecting them, witchcraft was the thing.
All right.
Yeah, so there you go. Awesome. So thank you for listening. Leave us a review on iTunes if you like the show, and go to watchingthetudors.com to learn more about us.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time for episode 2 of season 2.
And it won't be a couple of months from now. We're back on a schedule. We're getting there.
Indeed.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.